Hello guys, in this video today, I'm going to be showing you my effective diet plan for cutting. I'll explain in detail exactly how I balance my protein, fat, and carb intake during my cutting phase. By at the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how I do it, so that you can learn to plan your own meals during a cutting phase and achieve a lean, muscular look. Let's begin straight right in the video. I'm preparing for a bodybuilding competition, and my goal is to maintain as much muscle as possible when undergoing this preparation. So I have to be careful how I plan my diet to support this goal. A calorie deficit is necessary for a successful cut. If your goal is to lose fat, you need to plan on burning more calories than you consume in order to lose weight. However, losing weight doesn't necessarily mean you're losing fat. Those are two different things. My goal is not just to lose any weight, but fat weight. This is where the quality of my calories becomes just as important as the quantity. The first place to look to reduce my calories is processed foods. What's more, it's worth noting that consuming processed foods can actually seriously reduce the thermogenic effect of food. What this means is, when we eat food, our body uses some of the energy in that food to digest it. This use of energy during food digesting contributes to the fat burning process. This is the thermogenic effect of food. If we eat processed food, which are often high in fat, sugar, and additives, our bodies may not use as much energy to digest that food as they would with whole foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. This means that we may not burn as many calories when we eat processed food as we would with whole foods. There have been studies that have compared processed foods with whole foods and have found that consuming processed foods leads to a much lower metabolic response than eating whole foods. Now, the goal of my diet is to create a calorie deficit. Sticking to whole food as much as possible is the first step I use to help me optimize this deficit. Secondly, these foods are often calorie dense, meaning they provide a lot of calories in a small serving size, which can make it difficult to accurately track and control calorie intake, which is critical for cutting in bodybuilding. Finally, processed foods can be addictive and lead to overeating, which can hinder progress in achieving bodybuilding goals. Let's talk about protein. Since sparing muscle mass is a major goal of my cut, I can't cut calories from my protein intake. If anything, I will increase my protein intake during this time. Here's the reason why. A. Protein supports the calorie burning process. Protein requires more energy to be broken down and absorbed, thus using energy, which means that it requires more energy to both digest and absorb protein compared to carbs or fats. B. It maintains muscle mass while in a calorie deficit. This is due to the fact that as I get leaner, the amount of fat I have to burn for energy becomes more limited. Therefore, it may be more likely that I will tap into muscle tissue for energy production as I lean out. Increasing protein intake is very unlikely to cause fat gain. On the contrary, it promotes fat burning while in a calorie surplus. So why is this? Here's why. Protein is actually the most thermogenic macronutrient, meaning we actually burn calories while digesting and absorbing protein. In addition to its chemical structure, it would be a very costly job for the body to turn protein into fat. This would involve several enzymatic reactions that simply aren't worth it from an energy preservation standpoint. Let me unpack that for you. When we eat protein, our bodies use it to build and repair muscles. Because of the way protein is structured chemically, it will take a lot of work for bodies to turn excess protein into fat. This will involve several chemical reactions that require a lot of energy. Since our bodies are always trying to conserve energy, it's not worth it to turn protein into fat unless we absolutely have to. So, in simple terms, our bodies would have to work very hard to turn protein into fat, which is not an efficient use of energy. Therefore, it's unlikely that eating too much protein will make us gain fat during a cutting phase. To this end, increasing protein intake makes more sense because it actually helps my cut. You can lose fat while actually in a calorie surplus, but this surplus has to come from higher protein intake. Therefore, when planning a cut, I ensure that my calorie deficit is coming from reducing fat and carbohydrate instead of protein. And since protein is out of the question to reduce, that leaves with fats and carbs to modify in order to create a deficit. Typically, I drop carbs the most in the initial stages of my diet. First, I prefer to keep my fat intake around at least 15% of my total calories to preserve hormone levels and other body functions that rely on fat intake. It's important to remember that dietary fat intake has a strong correlation with testosterone, and reducing this intake will also reduce testosterone levels. It's worth also noting that not all types of fat are created equal. I consume healthy fats such as those found in nuts, seeds, and fatty fish because they have positive effects on testosterone levels and overall health. However, on the other hand, consuming large amounts of unhealthy fats such as those found in processed foods and fast foods can have negative effects on testosterone levels and health. So, fat intake can affect testosterone levels, which can in turn affect muscle growth for bodybuilders during a cut. Eating a diet that is low in unhealthy fat and high in protein helps me to maintain testosterone levels and promote muscle growth. In addition to reducing body fat in general, it may also reduce testosterone level, which means it's very important to maintain proper fat intake during a cutting diet. Keeping these things in check helps me maintain my muscle mass as my calories drop. I often promote the 70 to 30 method of cutting. 70% of my calories come from carbs and 30% from fats. That way, for example, if I need a 500 calorie deficit to lose fat, 350 of those calories will be derived from carbs and 150 from fats. While this is a method I like to use, it's certainly not a rule, nor is it the only method you can use. Everyone is going to have a different response to certain nutrition practices. So it's important to try a few different strategies to see what works best for you. So how do I consume my carbs during a cut? The best strategy I use is called the fuel for the work required method, or in other words, carb cycling. Essentially, this method helps me plan my carb intake based on the activity each day. Here's how I go about my carb consumption during a cut. I'll plan and have high carb days and low carb days. On high carb days will fall on the days where I do my highest training volume. This will typically be on leg day or an upper body workout like the back. On the days in which my training volume is low, like arms or shoulders, the work required is much lower and therefore it doesn't require as much fuel. So I consume less carbs on those days. With this in mind, I cycle in my lower carb days on rest days or active recovery days. Why would I carb cycle? First, it's a good method to control my daily calories throughout the week when I'm cutting. Second, this method improves fat oxidation during training and even leads to greater fat loss while still building muscle compared to a normal diet of cutting. Third, carbs are an important source of energy for the body during my weight training. When you engage in weight training, the body needs fuel to power your muscles and help you lift weights effectively. Carbohydrates provide that fuel. During weight training, your body uses stored carbohydrates called glycogen to fuel your muscles. If your body does not have enough glycogen stored, you may experience fatigue, weakness, and decreased performance during your workout. And that usually happens when you're cutting. And decreasing performance in the gym means muscle loss. And my goal is to preserve muscle during cut. So cycling my carbohydrates helps ensure that my body has enough glycogen to power my sessions and helps me maintain my muscle mass. Okay. Therefore, carb cycling is a solid choice for me because it helps me optimize my body composition. Is carb cycling optimal for muscle growth? You may ask. Yes, we know that a calorie surplus is important for maximizing muscle growth. And utilizing a carb cycling plan might leave you with some days at calorie maintenance or even a calorie deficit. And this is actually the same diet I maintain even during my bulking phase. But carb cycling, this actually helps you maintain a manageable body fat through year round when I'm actually bulking. At this fast cutting maintenance phase, the body is in a state of building muscle while dropping down body fat. So, in addition, while carbs don't play a direct role in protein synthesis as much as proteins, they do contribute in a small role in reducing protein breakdown by being readily used for energy in training. As we just discussed, instead of protein which is expensive for the body to convert to fuel. In addition, carbs help provide the energy to lift heavy during heavy lifting day's weight, which helps maintain muscle and restores calories, glycogen needed to repair and grow muscle. All in all, carb cycling probably is better for cutting in bodybuilding because it helps you maintain a considerable amount of body fat while building muscle during cutting. Again, as I mentioned earlier, dieting is highly individualized, and altering your intake of both fats and carbs to find your personal sweet spot and customized, it's likely necessary to get the most out of your diet when you're cutting. I hope you found value in this video, and if you do, let me know in the comment section below. Remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time.